Welcome to Comics on a Pyre, a channel to have a meaningful conversation over movies, life, books, and shows, and maybe just a spot to spend time BSing over comics. If you like your entertainment with a bit of substance, then you, my vagabond friend, have come to the right tavern. Tether your horse by the post and come right on in and warm yourself by the fire. Tap that subscribe button, and for the next few minutes, my fellow George Carlin reprobate, lend me your ear. A fully equipped squadron of heavily armed policemen storm Nakatomi Tower. Somewhere inside, Tokyo's police chief is tethered, hogtied, and bound to an office chair. The man in the snow-white cape and cowl that broods over him is Nemesis, the most feared and famous assassin in the world. With precious time still left, the officers assail 48 flights of stairs to an undisclosed room. Their hope is to stop Nemesis from killing their chief of police. Inside a dark room where the assassin takes his time, he taunts the police commissioner on all his shortcomings, his failure to stop the bombing at the cathedral, the botched prison escape, and most of all, his ineptness to save his own son from the embarrassing public suicide over the public exposure about his sexual exploits. With a cursory glance at his Rolex, Nemesis puts the icing on the cake. With a haughty chuckle, he states, "You must be proud of the men that you have trained. With your genius and their bravado, they are too stupid to realize that they are rushing to their own deaths." In a ball of flame, fire erupts, spewing from the south wing of Nagatomi's 48th floor. Shards of glass shoot into the air, raining down on the unsuspecting citizens far below. The initial explosion triggers a subsequent charge. Only this eruption is much larger and located at the base of the building. With its legs sweep, the giant edifice of glass, iron beams, and sheetrock lumbers to its side. With a wailing moan, it slams down into the unsuspecting streets below, effectively killing hundreds in its path. As an intended side effect, the building collapses on the concrete support beams and rails of Tokyo's elevated bullet train, which so happens to be scheduled to come along in only 42 seconds. Realizing the magnitude of his utter defeat, the chief, in a crazed, blood-mad anger, hollers out obscenities to his would-be victor. Nemesis just smiles back and steps off the tracks. For the dark room is now revealed not to be located in some high tower office building, nor in some abandoned dank basement, but on Tokyo's public light rail. There, defiant and arrogant, in the midst of uncalculated death and destruction, the master assassin stands, soaking in the glory of the culmination of his latest masterpiece. When asked by one of his henchmen, what is his next move, the Nemesis humorously tilts his head back and states, "America. There's a police officer in DC. He is brash and skilled, and most of all famous for all his exploits. The media loves to cover him. I think he will make a worthy opponent. To the States then, and let the new game begin." Welcome, my comic homies, to another episode of Comics on the Pyre. Today, I will be going over Mark Millar and Steve McNiven's Nemesis, which is a 4-part miniseries that was released way back in May of 2010. This short but sweet series is a mind-blowing roller coaster ride of pure adrenaline. It's totally told from the villain's perspective, where you see the bad guy outlining plot after plot schematic to draw out the good guy. It's really something. A comic book story purely villain-driven, where the bad guy is the main protagonist and the good guy is the antagonist. The story is over the top in a good way. There's plenty of gratuitous violence, action scenes that fill up the panel, but they also add to the overall story and are not just there as window dressing. The plot in the beginning is fast-paced and ambiguous, but as you read more and more, the background plot is more and more revealed. But you never think of it while you're reading the story because you are so involved in the present scenes, which I believe is a hallmark of a good action/mystery/thriller comic. Let me explain. On the top, the story seems like the run-of-the-mill action-filled comic with gratuitous violence scenes. But underneath, there is a second story brewing, one that is the genesis of future stories to come if the writer for so chooses. The characters are in and among themselves unimportant. It is the overall motif of the story that is important and where the comic's true strength lies. Kind of like The Purge, Saw, or even Final Destination. You watch for the movie's scenario outcomes rather than for the characters themselves. The people can be interchanged with every installment. The concept of the comic, without ruining it for you, is pretty cool, and I would love for it to be brought to the big screen. With subsequent installments, of course. But sadly, I don't think this will happen, and this theme will be buried and forgotten underneath the avalanche, along with other great comic book ideas. Like the intro says, if you like your stories with a bit of substance, then you come to the right tavern. This series has some meat and potatoes to it to go along with the main course. It's up to you to dive on in though. Well, that's it for now. Visit my comic book YouTube channel, Comics on the Pyre, for other videos like this one. Tap on that bell icon before you go, and oh yes, as always, until next time, keep reading, my friends.